Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monday Live with Alan and Greg. And today, all the way from Germany, we have Raf Blutaxt. Hope I'm getting that right. Let's say hello, everyone in the chat room. So, how are things going with everyone?
How's it going, Rob?
Hello, hello, you guys, and thanks for having me to begin with. And the German thing and everything. Cheers, everybody.
Okay, so what you got there?
It's a Mönchhof Keller beer. So Keller beer means unfiltered, and so it's an unfiltered pilsner, I guess, more or less.
Okay.
And it's from a brewery called Mönchhof, which means monk court, literally translated. And I just really like I like that type of like bottle cap where you can just like pop it off and then pop it back on and so forth. It's very practical. And it makes like a really good sound,
It's also reusable, isn't it?
It is very much reusable. Like you have to return those to the brewery basically, and they refill them. Just like they wash them and refill them.
I see. I definitely approve of that. I mean, in the U.S., essentially, unless you buy a growler from a local distillery, you throw away all your bottles. And that's
I mean, there's like a deposit on like all bottles in Germany at this point. Like cans are like 25 cents, and these are like 15 cents, and like the normal beer bottles are like 8 cents. But like you get money back for bringing them back, and the glass is just like reused. I guess the metal, like the cans, are just like melted down and so.
Yeah.
We're big on recycling here.
Same in Oregon, like that's why the streets are so green and clean. Like everybody picks up cans, and even one politician said, or I heard it somewhere about, because you see all these people picking up cans and carrying with big hefty bags, and they said it was supposed to be recycling, not a career. But I remember back in the day when I first came out here, and I didn't have an apartment or anything. You could go, it'd take you like 5-10 minutes in a park to get all the cans together, take them, and get a free 6-pack.
Yeah, and I mean that's partly there's an issue there these days. What we your pensions and stuff being down and like cost of living being up and so forth. There is a thing that like a lot of people are collecting cans and returning them to sort of like beef up their income when they're like on pension or disability or stuff like that. So there's a dark side to that, but it does keep the streets clean, and in general, it's a good idea to bring that stuff back and reuse it. I mean,
yeah, I recycle. I don't go through any cans like I used to when I drink beer a lot. But we have a beer called Gulch. I'm surprised you never saw it, Greg. It has an opener like that. Gulch?
Yeah, no. I know about Grolsch, and Grolsch is I mean, it's Dutch at this point. It's supposedly the favorite beer of all those cultural Marxists over at the Frankfurt School. And I live close to Frankfurt. But yeah, like Adorno and Horkheimer and Marcuse and all of those people, they were apparently very happy with Grolsch as a beer. I guess it was because it was the beer sold at like the cafeteria in Frankfurt at university.
Yeah, I was kind of asking Greg though. I mean, you've had one of those, haven't you? With the top?
No, not around here. What I have is up the street. We have this brewery called Six Bears and a Goat.
Okay,
and
that's pretty good.
And, they do very good beers. They have a lot of variety. They have your dark beers, your pilsners, and your reds, and and if you go into their bar where they have their distillery, there's usually 20 type of beers you can pick from.
Nice. Oh, that's nice.
It is. Some of them go up to like an alcohol content of like 9, maybe 10%.
Oh, yeah, like your doubles and triples and stuff like that, I guess.
And then we have the low ones like 3%, 4%, but they're pretty good. They get a lot of awards for their local beer.
Cool.
Yeah,
sounds good.
In Fredericksburg, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So they don't have growlers though, do they? Like they do up here?
You do. They have growler nights where you get like a $10 growler. You just get it filled.
Now
the problem is I don't drink that much beer because the growler is only good for 5 to 7 days usually.
Right.
Yeah.
In there.
You still drink occasionally. You drinking What was that? Modesta Gold, right?
That's what I was buying for. I was buying you Modesto Gold because I know you were drinking a lot, and it's okay.
You like even better beer, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought it was your favorite.
no, it's. I mean, if I'm going to like Walmart and I have to pick up a beer, they usually don't have a good selection of beers. There's a couple markets nearby. We have this store called Aldi, which is a German place, and
it's everywhere around here.
They usually have some German beers, and their prices are reasonable enough. You know, like $12 for a 6-pack or something like that. So, at least in the United States, that's reasonable. I guess beer is more reasonable in Germany.
Right.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean,
when I was a kid, I liked Molson Golden, just Canadian beer. Molson Golden, but then I found stout. I like stout beers.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick break to say hello to everyone in the chat room. There's Book Chat with Pat. Hello, Pat.
Hey, Pat.
Hello, James.
James.
Hello, Constance. Hello, the Fairy Librarian.
Hey, that's a new name.
Yeah, that's Cat. That's Cat from Cat from Belgium. Is
cool. Nice to meet you, Cat. Glad you're here.
Yeah,
she has a very, very good, very small BookTube channel. Highly recommended.
Yeah, well, you know what's interesting is when I do these shows at not our normal time, I get a whole different group of people showing up. And I kind of like that.
This is European time now.
It is European time.
Yeah.
And we have to say hello. I did say hello to Constance. I'm pretty sure I said
yeah.
Yeah. Now we have Bibliophile Reads, a channel with almost my name. Hey guys, hope you're all doing great. Oh, the Fairy Librarian says, I didn't know this channel existed before today. I'm so glad Raf got me to discover some new people to watch. Well, welcome, Kat from Belgium. Enjoy what we have to offer. This is what I call my pub night, where I get to pretend that I'm in a pub talking with my friends. Only that I'm not really in a pub.
Yeah, we've been doing this now for how long? A little over 2 years, and
we're on three years, going on 4 years on this show.
Oh, we are 3 years. Yeah. Time slips away with me.
Yeah, but it's like one of those things. It's like one of those things I've discovered about BookTube is that there's and I talked about this before. There is no such thing as BookTube. There's so many different parallel groups of BookTube, and you could be on here and have your own channel and have your own group and everything. It's there's going to be people you will never encounter in 5 or 6 or 7 years. Because they're constantly existing at the same time, but somehow parallel, and YouTube doesn't show you those people, and unless something happens to sort of cross promote this, you'll never find out about these people.
No, there's a lot. I mean, what happened is I released a video 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, about the 26 questions from Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, a lot of people did that one, and I just ignored it.
It's going viral. But what happened is a French woman watched my video. And she liked it. So she did her response in French, but she tagged me. So I'm trying to watch it. At first I was trying to and my French is not very good. So
neither is mine. I had it in school and then I kind of stopped using it.
And so it passed me by. So I had to do auto translate, but she tagged me and I was getting to understand it. But that's kind of interesting. My video went to France and now is being spread out, So that's another corner that we don't see is all these foreign languages. And then there's some genres that I just don't read. Like I'm saying, I don't read a lot of fantasy books, but fantasy has humongous channels and followers with this whole subclass or whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's sort of where I'm in this weird position where I started out as a fantasy channel. I'm all over the place by now, and being German, but doing my videos in English is another sort of hindrance, because YouTube does show my videos to Americans and British people and Australians and Canadians. It doesn't necessarily show it to Germans because it does sort of recommendations and stuff in the algorithm by language. So apparently, according to the algorithm, to YouTube's analytics, I have 0.9% of my viewers are German, which is interesting.
Well, as I understand it, most Germans understand some English at least, or is that
Yeah, of
typical?
course.
So they could watch your videos in your original language and not need the translator. But who knows with the algorithm and why it
Yeah.
serves up.
Yeah, I can't remember how I got turned on to Raf's channel. But I do all the booking here. So no, didn't you? You went through Greg.
No, I
Do you
think no.
remember?
You discovered Raf first, and then you pointed out a video that he'd made, and I liked watching,
Oh, all
or
right.
or something like that.
You know. Yeah, I don't remember like how I first discovered you guys. I know I've been watching some of the some of your live when they showed up like in a timeline where I was like awake.
Oh yeah,
and so
I'm gonna comment or
I think like one with Pat and those kind
or Gareth.
of. I say like it's a different sort of like audience in general that you guys have compared to like whatever my audience is at this point, which is all over the place.
Well, I have a very unusual audience. I look at my analytics, and I do skew towards older viewers. In the 50s, 60s is the broader range, or the most amount of viewers I get in that age range. I get almost none in the young range.
We don't do a lot of YA.
No.
Don't read a lot.
Well, even no, not necessarily youth under 18. I'm talking like the 20 set, the 20s.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Well, who knows? Let me go say hi to a few more people. Some Okie dude. What's up?
Yeah, hey.
Hey, Gavin's here. Hello.
Hey,
Wow,
Gavin.
time I can join live. Yeah, Gavin. Every now and then we do it.
Yeah. Then you skipped over Mick.
Did I? Hold on.
Yeah, he's in England.
Over Mick. Yeah.
Match. Yeah.
Mick. Hello, Mick.
And I think that some Okie dude, he's on your Discord.
Yeah, well, he's asking a question. He says, "Are you discussing the whole book or part from it?" I guess he's talking about Gravity's Rainbow.
I mean, we might bring some of it up, but
discussion. This is just a live show, and
Yeah.
we'll just like hang out. Yes.
yeah. Well, I talk a little bit about Gravity's Rainbow because we're all three reading the book, so it's going to get mentioned.
We're just getting done with the first part, but we have read the whole book. But go ahead.
Yeah,
Raf.
I still have to catch up because I'm still stuck with my Christmas project of reading all those Karl May novels, and I've read it before. So Karl May, he's a German author, like 19th century author of adventure novels, a lot of them set in the American West, and he's supposed he was Albert Einstein's favorite author and Arnold Schwarzenegger's favorite author and Adolf Hitler's favorite author, and has had a huge impact on like Europe's perception of like the American West, but never really got like big like translated into English like early on. So it's one of those really weird things that explains a lot of like Germany, but not a lot about but like a lot of like English speaking people are not aware of this guy existing, and he sold like 200 million copies of his books, right? Like that is big.
It is now. Is he translated into English at all, or is it not?
He is translated into English by now, yes. But he published like in the 1870s to 1890s. He died in 1912, I think.
Okay.
So it's one of those like weird things, and I usually do like one of those projects between like Christmas and Epiphany, so the 6th of January, like doing like 13 books in like 13 days, and I'm hopefully behind, like woefully behind right now because of, stuff where I read like one book per day and make a video about it, and I did that about the Redwall children's books last year, and I really enjoyed those, and so this year I let people vote on it, and I ended up doing this about the Karl May novels, and there's like 6 of them set in like the Ottoman Empire, and like 7 of the westerns that I'm reading right now, and it's a very interesting and weird experience because I read those as a kid. I basically inherited those books from my dad and I guess both of my grandfathers, and this is like very much a German thing. and going back to something I read as like when I was like 10 years old or 11 years old, and realizing how much of that stuff I missed back then, because obviously, as an 11-year-old, your horizon's not that huge, and you will overlook so much stuff. So it's interesting, but it's also somewhat challenging.
Okay. I'm going to go through some more comments. Some real question. Here's from Constance. Is it German beer more nutrient dense like bread? I'm being sincere here.
Yes and no. I mean, it kind of depends on the type of beer. So I don't know. Like, I mean, it certainly is, nutrient heavy, as of course, but all beer is basically, right. But I feel like a lot of like American beers using, you guys are using rice for whatever reason instead of say wheat or whatever that we use for like the malt and stuff. So I don't know if that impacts the calorie content. But like beer is always like very much a nutrient heavy drink, and it's there's a reason some people call it liquid bread.
You can live off it for a few weeks, few days.
All right. So we have, I can't quite, Anna something. I made it to the live. Raf is one of my favorite shows. Yay.
Hello, Anna. Yeah, I was like very excited. Like I got a comment like, hey, I hope I can make it live. So I'm very glad you can make it live. This is awesome.
So Bibliophile Red says, I follow 3 German booktubers. Leslie's here. Books, Gers, and Purrs.
Hey, Leslie.
Live right now. Perfect. Hi, everyone.
From LA.
LA, yeah. Oh, the Fairy Librarian. Well, I'm 21. You got at least some new person now. Yay. Breaking into a new demographic. I'm happy. Lee Kemper is here. Hello, Lee.
Hello, Lee.
Literish. So is 2026 going to be the Men of BookTube calendar release? Maybe 2027.
Yeah, I guess it's too late for a 2026 release now.
Yeah.
But I did get like a new pair of pants. I had to buy a new pair of pants recently because the last one fell apart for dumbest reasons ever, which is actually going to the gym and working out. And that meant like having to tighten my belt, which meant that the belt chafed through the fabric, which is not usually where jeans usually, stray.
I'm wearing pretty good jeans today, but some of mine are going to be natural cutoffs. This summer, I've got 2 pairs that are out.
So Literish said a joke. So Einstein, Schwarzenegger, and Hitler walk into a bar.
Yeah, that's a very interesting setup for sure.
Yes. Mick, it's a meal in a bottle talking about the beer. Okay, we've done with the comments. So Raf, on this show, the only thing I try to do as a regular feature is ask people to talk about what they're currently reading or books that they want to highlight that they've recently read. So you kind of mentioned it a little bit.
I mean, as I said, right now I'm reading those Karl May novels, and I still have like 3 more to go, and then I'll, catch up with you guys with Gravity's Rainbow, which is a reread for me. Okay. I'm very much looking forward to reading Mills of the Gods, which is the new Tim Powers novel. Tim Powers is writing sort of weird metafiction, fantasy-ish, historical fiction kind of novels. It's an interesting kind of thing. Like, he usually writes stories that are set somewhere in history, but have like a supernatural element in it. One of my favorites is Declare, which is a story. Basically, it's a Cold War spy story, and it's set in like it starts in like the 1930s and goes to like the 1960s, I think. And it's all about, King Philby and the Cambridge Five leaving, well, leaving is a good word there, right? Like, being double agents and all of that. And he ties that in with the idea of Jinn as, the mythical creatures and the Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat and so forth, because obviously Kim Philby was stationed in Lebanon and around that area and so forth. So he does that kind of stuff. And the new one is set in Paris in the 1920s. Okay. And I don't know much more about it.
Joyce was.
I've heard of Tim Powers. I'm trying to remember if I ever read anything by. Did he do the Gates of Anubis or something?
He did the Anubis Gates, yes.
Anubis Gates. Okay.
Yes, he did the Anubis Gates. He also wrote a book called On Stranger Tides, which Disney optioned or licensed to make a Pirates of the Caribbean movie around, but basically took nothing except the idea of like having the Fountain of Youth in like one of their novels. It has like literally nothing to do with the actual novel, which is, a piracy novel about Captain Blackbeard and the Fountain of Youth and quantum theory and other stuff.
Okay.
Because
did he write a beer fantasy novel or someone did?
yes, he did write The Drawing of the Dark, which
that was
is
The Drawing of the Dark.
Yes, that's the beer fantasy novel. That was his debut novel. I still haven't read that one, and it's set in Vienna, which is under attack from the Ottomans at that time, and it's about the Fisher King and stuff. He always, his approach is picking up a level of like some element in history and going like, there's something weird going on. So what fantasy element can I use to sort of like solve those weird inconsistencies that just like crop up in history, because history is weird and people are weird. And that's usually what he does. He has like another one that I read is The Stress of Her Regard, which is about Percy Shelley and vampires. So it's about Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley and Byron and vampires, and the whole like the drowning of Percy Shelley is sort of like framed as his attempt to get away from a vampire that he kind of got into the vampire thing with and stuff like that. So he that's like his whole thing, and he's like written tons of novels like that. And he's been around since like I think he got published in like 1980 or 81 or so. So he's been around for a long time.
He's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Alan? You read anything interesting?
Yeah, I finished Mucko Flugga with Angelia. So I can call that my first book of the year for me to finish.
Okay.
That was good. Scottish. Mucko Flugga is a island, northern point of Scotland, if I'm correct, and they have a lighthouse, but it's a story about a family and not a family, but basically a father and son. The mother is dead, and we find out how as the novel goes on. But it's good. I recommend it. Angelia liked it too. Somebody comes who people visit the island for bird watching and things like that, because the father doesn't like people very much. He's a lighthouse keeper and real gruff and a drinker and like that. But a visitor comes and we get a relationship with these two young men, and it's real subtle. Like even at the end, I'm not spoiling anything, but I don't know if it's going to lead to like a romantic, like homosexual relationship, or if they're just friends. Because I don't know. It's real subtle, kind of like a Leonard Hungry Paul, that Irish novel.
Okay,
you guys read that, but and then I've been I just started Rakaman's World by Le Guin.
Oh, that's like one of the Israel Cannon's, I think, is the first
novel.
Yeah,
it's the first like full novel that was published as a novel. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Le
Guin is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2026 is going to be my year to catch up with sci-fi. Like I've only read really like Dan Simmons and I like Gene Wolfe. Read a bit of him.
Yeah, Gene Wolfe is really interesting.
Yeah, so I can talk about that, but classic sci-fi, like Greg can talk about sci-fi all day long. But so 26 is going to be my year catching up with sci-fi. But
I mean, I really like Gene Wolfe is really interesting. I obviously love like Book of the New Sun is amazing. I do like his like things like the Latro in the Mist series, like the Roman soldier in Greece kind of thing. I like that one. I really enjoyed his Wizard and Knight. His approach to doing like an Arthurian and Norse myth retelling at the same time was really interesting. Gene Wolfe is just like it's my kind of writing. It's like full of like weird weird references that I might
I'm
just
holding
get, and
up
then I feel smart.
I'm holding up a copy right now of The Earth of the New Sun. I
Yeah,
have not read. I've read the ones before, but not this one
that
yet.
one. Yeah.
Would you be in there like rereading it this year?
I definitely want to reread it. I read the Book of the New Sun books when they're brand new. I read the first three books in high school, and the fourth book had not been published yet. So I read it as it was published, and I want to set some time out to reread them all four.
Okay.
The project, like I don't think it's going to be 2026. I think it's going to be 2027.
Okay.
Maybe like we're doing Mishima this year, January, February, March, and April. We just did the Book of the New Sun next year.
Okay, I'd be in that. But I don't reread the whole thing.
Yeah, I've read it like 3 times now, 4 times by now, and I'm like, every time I pick up on new things in there, and I'm like, holy shit, where did that one come from?
Yeah, I've only read them once, so I'd be in the
so much like there's a book. I mean, it's not a huge spoiler. It's near the beginning, Shadow of the Torturer, when he's going into the tower and he's describing it, and there's a poster on the wall that's like a poster of the U.S. space shot or something.
Yeah, that's like when he goes, he's sent to go to the library, and he goes through the gallery, and he watches all those ancient paintings that are cleaned by the picture cleaner, and he describes that it is like a knight of some sort standing on like a barren waste, and there's a blue world reflected in the visor of his helmet, and then you realize that that's that moonshot, like the shot from like the moon landing.
It's amazing, and it's just that's why I want to take it real slow, and read that. So I think 2027 will be the year of Gene Wolfe.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Anything else you want to highlight, Alan?
Yeah, I would, because besides 26 being like sci-fi year for me and others, it's going to be a pinch-on year for me too, because we're doing Gravity's Rainbow, and this is turning into like a Ulysses or Finnegan's Wake or a Divine Comedy for me with the annotations. My third time through, it's like black, blue, and red all over, Yeah. And then I'm reading Crying of Lot 49 with Lisa Byrne. And then we're reading Inherent Vice. I'm going to get her to read that.
Okay. I might join you for some of those, depending on what month they air and how busy I am.
I think Inherent Vice for me is probably the most accessible Pynchon novel.
Yeah.
And I really like it because it is so straightforward. And if you read it and you've read like Crying of Lot 49 and you've read Vineland, there's like some overlap and like characters they have in common and stuff like that. And no, Inherent Vice, really good. And
Bleeding Edge is pretty readable too.
I need to reread Bleeding Edge. I read that like right when it came out, and I think I missed a lot of stuff because that's not my first language. English is not my first language, obviously. And Thomas Pynchon is not necessarily known for writing the most accessible like version of English. So I'm pretty sure that I'll pick up on a lot more when I reread it. And I'm definitely going to reread it at some point. But
Sure.
All right. So let me tell you what I've been reading. I've seen some comments mentioning Stoner, the book. I'll get to the comments in a moment, but I want to mention the book that I finished last night, which is part of my John Williams project. I want to read all the novels of John Williams this year. And his first novel is not as well known as Stoner, Butcher's Crossing, and Augustus. This is Nothing But the Night. And it's basically the story of a young man, probably New York City, who's just having lots of life angst about what to do in his life. And I really wasn't too impressed with this book. It's beautifully written. And then I read The Afterword, which is a reviewer talking to John Williams' wife. This book was written and published in 1948, and I believe he married the woman in the late 50s, something like that. But she told a story of how he came to write this book. He was in World War II. He was a radio operator. He was in a plane that got shot down. He survived, but he was injured. And he was injured enough that they would have sent him home. but they weren't transporting soldiers back home, so he just had to stay on the air base. He's 22 with nothing better to do, and he wrote this book.
Oh,
And I'm going, like, a 22-year-old wrote this prose? That's amazing. I mean, it's kind of juvenile in a way. I mean, he was 22 years old writing about someone 24, and you just get this whole young person against the world vibes, and not a perfect book by a long shot. It's really one of those things. I think it was Ernest Hemingway said that authors should throw away their first novel after they've written it. Some author said that.
Sounds like him, yeah.
And that's sort of the impression I got out of this. This was a practice novel that you had to write to get the feeling of how you write a novel. And then he went on to write the 3 great books, Stoner, which I am going to be rereading in April with a book chat with Pat. And I know people are mentioning it in the comments about them. I'm going to jump to the comments now since you are mentioning it. So here's Bibliophile Reads. I've been watching all of Raf's Carl May series, and I'm working on getting a few copies of Carl May's books. I might try to check out to see if there's anything available in English over here.
There is definitely stuff available in English by now. It's a really weird and interesting thing to see, sort of like how he filters stuff like through his perception as someone living in like Germany in the 1860s, 70s, 80s, and so forth. And he had like a remarkably weirdly adventurous and chaotic life himself. Like he became like really super famous to the level of like almost like today's level of fame when he, actually, gave like a talk or met like people that like the cops had to like block off streets because there were so many people showing up. But before that, he was born like super, super poor, like in 1841, in an area that had like all these like still like cottage weavers, the same way that you had like in England in like the 1700s, where you work in your cottage and you sell it to like someone and they sell it on and so forth. And that obviously got like taken out by the larger industrial revolution, obviously. And that hit like Germany, that specific part of Germany in like the 1800s-ish. I mean, this is, this is right where people like Marx and so forth go like, holy shit, we did something wrong with all that industrialization thing, right? And so he grew up in like insane poverty. He was blind because of malnutrition for the first like 3 or 4 years of his life. That level of poverty we're talking about. And then he studied to become a teacher and became a teacher. And during like the first couple of weeks of being a teacher, he got accused of stealing his roommate's watch. And it's kind of questionable whether he did steal it or borrow it because it's complicated. Anyway, so he got in prison for like a couple of weeks. But if you were imprisoned, you couldn't be a teacher anymore because of like you have to be like morally upstanding to be a teacher in like 19th century Prussia, basically. And so he lost his job that he trained for, and he then went in like a criminal career for a while and did like a lot of con man stuff and ended up in prison for like 4 or 5 years, like 4 years. And then he came out of that, and that's when he started becoming a writer and suddenly became incredibly famous as a writer, writing all these adventure stories that they were all written like travel narratives of 19th century, right? And he always claimed that he was just writing down all of his adventures he had in the American West and somewhere all over like the Ottoman Empire and so forth. And people believed him for the longest time. He became super famous until someone made it very clear that no, this is all lies. And then it moved from there. So his life makes for a fascinating biography on its own.
Okay, see now I got to go check it out. See what I can find by him.
Yeah, I've seen a few videos right on it.
Yep. So we have a comment from Litterish. He says, I read Remarkably Bright Creatures on Greg and Pat's suggestion, and I did enjoy it. A bit saccharine, but hey, we need that. Also, Stoner on Greg's suggestion. Great. Now reading Exorcist 3 Legion. I never actually recommended Remarkably Bright Creatures. Now, Pat did. Pat made it on one of our favorite books of the year in the 20 questions tag, and I'm releasing my version of the 20 questions tag tonight at midnight. And one of the questions is like mention a book that lived up to the hype, that was Pat's answer, I think, on that particular one. And the second one was a book that did not live up to the hype. And I flipped it, and mine, Remarkably Bright Creatures, is one of the books that did not live up to the hype.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it all right. But
There's some weird family stuff going on that just hallmarky type of movie.
Exactly.
So
I don't even know what books were hyped in 2025. I read some 2025, like the ones that I was like really excited for me was obviously Shadow Ticket, because I was not expecting to get like another Thomas Pynchon novel, so I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna read this on like day one, and it was it's not Thomas Pynchon's best novel from where I'm standing, but it was better. I was like very worried that this would be like really, bad, not bad, but like disappointing. I'm like, no, this feels like a Thomas Pynchon novel. I noticed it's very Pynchon-esque. Like 5 minutes in, and I'm like, yeah, this is
Shadow
awesome.
Ticket now?
Yeah,
Talking about Shadow Ticket?
Yeah, I'm talking about Shadow Ticket.
Oh, okay.
And also, he's 80 years old, and he's still writing like that.
That's the point. It's like this is very good. This is similar to Cormac McCarthy's The Passenger and Stella Maris, where I was like, will this be good? And I'm like, no, this feels like Cormac McCarthy, and it's still very much Cormac McCarthy doing the Cormac McCarthy thing. And the same was happening with Thomas Pynchon. Was like, yeah, this is very much solid Thomas Pynchon.
I had the same feeling with Cormac McCarthy when I read the two books, but I read it and he says he's done so much better.
I didn't get one of those two yet.
Some people really liked it, but
Brian read it when it came out, and a lot of people did.
I think for me, like The Passenger was good. I think it was like the combination of that and Stella Maris that made it good, really great for me. Plus, listening to Stella Maris as an audiobook is really, really haunting, because obviously, it's just like the protocols from those interviews, right? And if you do that as an audiobook with like a narrator, like two narrators, like one for
that's what I was going to ask. They did two narrators for that.
Yeah, so you have like a female, like a woman narrating like her interview parts, and that makes it very, very haunting. And having that sort of like as the final thing that Cormac McCarthy published is like, obviously in hindsight even more so, but like I read it before he passed, and so it still works really well if you read it just as like the interviews of someone going through some severe like messed up mental health issues, right? So it worked really well in that regard, I think.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I didn't dislike it. My comment was his earlier books were just so much better, in my opinion. So Literish says, and 32 here for any age context. Bibliophile says, I just finished the German lesson by Siegfried Lenz and Stoner by John Williams. I'm now reading Chronicle of the Death Foretold by Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
I've only read 100 Years of Solitude by Marquez so far. I will definitely get back to him, though, because I really enjoyed 100 Years of Solitude. So,
I read that in the 90s, and Alan and I have been talking about rereading that book for years, and we have to get around to it someday.
What book?
100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Yeah, got it right here.
Mm-hmm.
Got it right here, handy, ready to go.
Yeah. You see, my problem is my paperback is an old mass market paperback, and now that I look at it, I read it when I was 30 years old originally, and now it's 31 years later, and I look at the text. I'm going, this text is really small.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, like, I got to put on better reading glasses, or
I have a good edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I've read
I've read other Garcia Marquez as well. I've read the Chronicle of the Death Foretold. I've read
Love in the Time of Cholera.
Love in the Time of Cholera, In Evil Hour.
Oh.
One of his other minor novels, Strange Pilgrims or something like that, and some short stories by him.
Oh.
So I've read a bit.
No, I still have like a lot of ground to cover when it comes to generally like Latin American sort of like novels, like literature in general. Like I've read, yeah, that one. I've read a ton of Borges, but that's roughly it for me because
Oh yeah.
I like
Well,
the
that's-
manual.
Like I was holding up Borges. I have this. I mean, you can't see this, but this is his collected fictions. This is all his stories.
yeah, I have that one. I have that one in audio. Like there's an unabridged one of that, and I have
I
this
have,
unabridged.
I have it in audio as well, and I
Me
love
too.
listening to the audio and reading along.
Yeah, me too.
Did you notice though that that Borges is a character in Book of the New Sun, basically?
He is. I did not know that.
Oh yes. Now when Severian in Shadow of the Torture, after he passes that picture of the moon landing, right, he has to go to the librarian, and it's that old blind librarian that doesn't have. He's always just called the librarian. That's very much Gene Wolfe, basically turning Borges into a character in
Oh,
Book of the New
I
Sun.
didn't pick it up. I mean, that's great though.
The same way the same way he is a character in Umberto Eco's Name of the Rose, of course.
Oh yeah, I remember. I remember the blind librarian from that book.
And he's like, because Umberto Eco is Umberto Eco, he calls that blind librarian Jorge of Burgos. So yeah, you know.
I love that. I mean, I got to
Bolaño.
read that book again. I mean, I've read it 3 times in my life, but I can go back to it again and again. Now, one book of Echo's I want to revisit is Folcott's Pendulum.
Foucault's Pendulum is I finally got to it last year. In 2024. So it's one of those books I wanted to read for the longest time, but for the longest time there was not an unabridged audiobook version of that, and I can use screen readers and stuff to access books, obviously, but Umberto Eco is not the kind of author you want to have like a machine read to you. It's really bad for that, right? So going through that, and he finally got an audiobook in an unabridged one. There was an abridged one. It's like a 6-hour version of Foucault's Pendulum. Does sound very, very bad.
See, I read the book when it first was published in hardcover, and I was 24, 25, and that book just went way over my head. I'm going, what the hell is this? So now that I have a lot more years behind me, I hope I can read it and really understand it.
Yeah. First question. No, I have not read Metro 233, but I know of it. It's one of those things that I haven't gotten to. For me, like Foucault's Pendulum was the kind of book that was like it felt like it was specifically written for me because I have weird interests, and obscure conspiracy theories and weird occultism is something I'm really interested in. I'm just read a lot of like non-fiction stuff on that subject. So there were like references in there where I'm like, I'm not sure how many people actually get that reference. And I already even just with the quotes at the beginning of like chapters, and I'm like, hell yeah, he's quoting someone that like, I don't know, maybe 20 people have read in the last 10 years or whatever. So
there's a lot of Kabbalah in that book and a lot of Jewish mysticism in Foucault's Pendulum and the Tree of Life and the Sephiroth and that.
There's a lot of that, and there's a lot of like making fun of Rosicrucians. There's a lot of generally it's a remarkable kind of novel. It's also I've read like
I read it, but I lost my copy of it. I read it. I lost it in Georgia, but Harrigan and I were going to go through that.
It's a brilliant book. I love it. It's like I've read like at least some of them. Study philosophy at university, so I'm interested in it as well. So I've read some of his stuff like that, and you can tell that he wrote Name of the Rose to do specific things that he was already doing in his semiotic studies already, but to sort of turn that into like an actual novel, which is why you have that quote at the beginning of Name of the Rose that says like, there are things you can't philosophize but have to novelize. And he wrote that book and people just took it as like actual historical fiction, when it is very much not that, because it is, it's very postmodern, it's very philosophical, it pokes fun at like a ton of things. It's not a depiction of like the actual Middle Ages in any way, shape, or form. But people took it completely straight like that and loved it and was like, this is crime fiction in the Middle Ages. It's awesome. And then he wrote Foucault's Pendulum in part to just like give the finger to those people who didn't get what he was trying to do. And people hated Foucault's Pendulum. It was not a very popular novel. It sold a lot of copies, and then everyone got really mad because they were expecting to have like another weird crime fiction novel set in like the Middle Ages. And what they got is, well, a mess of conspiracy theory, occultism, Kabbalah, and weirdness. and that is insanely dense and very difficult to go through if you don't know really obscure shit, to put it mildly.
That's I mean, as I said, way over my head when I was 25 or whenever I read it. But now sometime I'll get to it.
Yeah, I think it is definitely the kind of book that works better if you've read a lot of other stuff. That whole like long sort of like part where he's reading some of the stuff that like the editor has written down when he goes through the files on the computer, and you have that whole thing that plays around with the idea of the question like, who is Shakespeare, and maybe it's Marlowe, or maybe it's Edward Kelly, and maybe he does a lot of like really weird stuff around the Golem and Edward Kelly, and there's like so many layers upon layers upon layers of like different references that makes it like incredibly impressive to read.
John Dee's partner, right?
Yes, Edward Kelly is John Dee's sort of like medium partner in crime, whatever you know, depending on like how you read John Dee. Yes, and supposedly he might, according to this sort of like fiction within a fiction within a fiction, it's Edward Kelly who's writing Shakespeare's stuff because John Dee forces him to do that. But there's also this episode where they go to Prague and meet the Golem, and for whatever reason, it's a whole thing. I really enjoyed it the same way that I did really enjoy last year I read Percival Everett and James Kincaid's History of the African American People as proposed by Strom Thurmond and told to James Kincaid and Percival Everett. And it's these like layers that, you know, it's making fun of the publishing industry, making fun of writing, making fun of academia. It's the kind of thing I really enjoy. But I understand that you need to have read a lot of stuff to realize how funny this is.
What about a book like the Illuminatus trilogy?
Oh, I love that one. I've read it several times. I really love it. It's so funny.
Yeah, I partied with Robert Anton Wilson. I met him back in the day. He was part of our Finnegan's Wake group in Tempe, Arizona, and he lived in Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Would drive over.
Yep. Well, Alan and I may be reading that trilogy this year. We're trying to squeeze it in towards late summer, early fall, something like that. See if we can squeeze it in.
Now, I have read that like 2 times. The last time was with Jason Harrigan. I read that.
And that's like the thing, like with the Finnegan's Wake reading group, that makes a lot of sense because there's so many James Joyce references in the Illuminatus trilogy that I didn't pick up when I read it for the first time. For the first time, I just read it for the mindfuck, right? And then I went back to it and was like, there's so much stuff I didn't pick up on the first time round. What I find interesting is like in a lot of ways, I feel like the Illuminatus trilogy is a bit of like a sort of like punk version of Thomas Pynchon, or what Pynchon is trying to do or doing a lot of times, but it's just like, you know, working around that question of like paranoia and consensus reality, and that big break that happens somewhere between 1967, 8 and like the early 70s. That sort of like weird, that question of like what went wrong in America. Kind of, right? That's like the thing that Pynchon is dealing with in like Crying Out Loud 49 and Vineland and Inherent Vice in a lot of ways. And Illuminatus deals with the same sort of stuff. It's just like way more on the nose and somewhat more like punk and more gonzo in a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the things like, what if, yeah. It's like a gonzo version of Thomas Pynchon in a lot of ways.
That's a good way to put it.
Now, what about the second trilogy? Because I have it on my shelf right here. The Masks of the Illuminati.
I haven't read that stuff. I've read some of his
Robert
like
Anton Wilson. You have not read that one.
No, I've read
I've
the first
read.
trilogy, and I've read like the Thomas. I've read his like what are they called? The Ultimate Secrets of the Illuminati. This like sort of like auto fiction where he talks about his own like the murder of his daughter and the whole like Chapel Perilous thing and how he went through that sort of like paranoia stuff himself. I've read
Yeah,
those, but I haven't read the historical Illuminati stuff, Chronicles or whatever it's called. I haven't read those.
Hmm.
I've read other Anton Wilson books. I don't have all the ones I've read, but I've read a ton.
So let me give you some more comments. Cat the Fairy Librarian says, I really want to try Pinchon, but I'm scared. Well, Alan and some other people are doing Crying of Lot 49 and Inherent Vice. Crying of Lot 49 is really easy. It's less than 200 pages. It's a very easy introduction to Pinchon. It's still very Pinchon-esque, but it's not like Gravity's Rainbow or Against the Day that just overwhelm you.
Against the Day was my first Pinchon, and it definitely overwhelmed me at the time. I was like, wow.
Yeah, we did that last year, and it's like you just read it and go, okay, that's really fascinating stuff, but it just doesn't connect. He's throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks.
No, I don't think it's that. Like with his large novels, I mean, Pynchon is always an author for me that goes for like vibes in a lot of ways, like, sort of like feeling out these sort of like moments where time, like history, kind of breaks, right? And with Against Day, that's that whole like labor struggle and things like that, all the way leading up to World War One, which is like one of those massive things where like shit went crazy went sideways for a moment, right? But he's way more like trying to feel out sort of like a general sort of like atmosphere than actually telling a conventional plot in a lot of ways. And I think he does that pretty well with Against Day. Keep in mind, I read this in it's like 20 years ago, so my memories are somewhat dim. I just remember the whole thing about that mathematician's drug party in Göttingen, which is the reason is like Göttingen is 90 minutes by train from where I live, and my girlfriend at the time lived in Göttingen. I had been at that university, so having that that party thing when they have to use the elephant syringe to inject cocaine to get the guy back up to before he dies, and I'm like, that is both like incredibly funny, but also just knowing the places and having been in those places was like really interesting to me. But yeah, I think he captures. There's a thing with Pynchon that I find fascinating that often gets lost with his like the hilarity and the over the top hysteria that is so much part of like Pynchon oftentimes. But there's this like underlying level of melancholy in Pynchon's writing, where like when the stories go to their sort of like come to their end, it's usually everyone is just like left going like, well, so what now? And this underlying melancholia that I think is really, really fundamental to me when I read Pynchon. And you have that at the end of Gravity's Rainbow when Tyrone Slowthrope is slowly, vanishing into nothingness. And some people have maybe seen him somewhere and stuff like that. But like, you have the same with Inherent Vice when, what's his name? Doc Sportello is just like driving through the fog.
What's the
sort of like
name of the girl in there? Sandy? I forget. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Shasta Fay in Inherent Vice. Shasta Fay. Yeah. So you have the same in Against the Day once World War One is sort of over, and you have all the few traverses that are still around, right? Like being in these places, asking, what's her name? The daughter of the Travis girl. I keep forgetting her name.
Ella Reese or not. Something like that. With
using the radio in the hopes of someone maybe hearing her, and that sort of like that trying to find a connection and just like calling into the void in the hopes that you will find a connection somewhere, and not actually finding that, and people being sort of like lost and like receding into this like weird void of chaos. Basically, that is such a fundamental Pynchon thing to me, and I think Against the Day does capture that in in a way, the same way that you have like, and you have this general like sort of like stuff slowly receding and vanishing, the same way that like the chums of chance in their airship and with the talking dog, right, Pugnacks, and how they can only be seen by some people at this point because they're slowly receding, which mirrors the same thing with like Tyrone Slothrop. He can only be seen by some people near the end of the story, right? This sort of like how worlds divide, how those paths of reality sort of like divide, and that constant feeling. Thomas Pynchon is writing about like really cool history and how we constantly ended up on the wrong track, basically, and went down the wrong path, basically.
I think some of the conspiracy theories add up better in Gravity's Rainbow than in Against the Day.
Yeah.
In Against the Day, they just don't, and I've read that 3 times, and Twit, I still don't know what Twit is, and Yasmin.
I think he just wanted to make a dumb Star Trek joke, I think.
Yeah.
Which I respect.
Let me finish up with some comments here. We still have
We have a lot of comments.
I wanted an audiobook of Gravity's Rainbow, but I can't find one in the UK.
Oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I'm listening to the audiobook narrated by Grover Gardner and reading the text along, and that really helps me focus.
Yeah, that's a UK specific thing, though. That's the Brexit problem for you right there, because I have it and I can get it in Europe, like in Germany. So it's available in the EU and it's apparently available in America. So it's a Brexit problem that you can't actually have access to that thing.
Yeah, I wonder if the Britons are actually regretting Brexit now.
Yeah, I feel some people are obviously regretting it. Talking about Brexit, there's a really good novel. I don't know if you guys read any M. John Harrison.
No. I have not read him. I might have a book of his on my Kindle to read someday. He wrote Light.
He has written Light. It's like a space opera thing, but he's written Vericonium, which is like a collection of stuff he wrote over time.
Vericonia, yes, that's
Vericonium, yes. And he wrote a novel. It won it won the Goldsmith Medal, which is that Goldsmith Award, whatever it's called. It's that experimental fiction thing, and it's a really weird novel about Brexit. That is also what if Brexit was also Shadow over Innsmouth, basically.
Oh.
Okay.
And I'm doing it like a lot of injustice right now by describing it that way, but it is that. So it's basically, it's a very contemporary literary fiction kind of novel where you have like a bunch of people, like a couple of people, like 2 people basically, and their friends and so forth, in their mid-40s that are somewhat lost, and like one dude and like a woman, they have a bit of an affair, and it kind of doesn't go anywhere, and they're so concerned with themselves and their problems, and they're constantly interacting with these weird people. That are maybe fish people that are also conspiracy theorists, and they're so concerned with themselves and their personal problems that they don't realize how the fish people are slowly taking over the country, and then stuff goes sideways because of that. So it's very much that sort of like, we knew that Brexit was happening. We knew that like basically right-wing conspiracy theorists were taking over Britain, but everyone is so concerned with like their personal problems that it kind of happens in the background, and using that sort of like level of like weird fish people in like the Shadow over Innsmouth sort of like way of doing that is just a really good metaphor of doing that, especially if you take into account like sort of like all the racist under and overtones of like Lovecraft's fiction. I just really interesting. It's written, as I said, like more as a contemporary literary fiction novel of like unhappy people in their 40s being lonely, and at the same time it's that horror novel about like how weird fish people are taking over England.
Interesting. Let me catch up on some comments. I hear they're making Remarkably Bright Creatures, making a film of it. Hold on. And apparently Sally Fields is cast. She could make an interesting Tova. Greg, I know you're not really a film guy, but come on, Sally Fields. Yeah, I'll probably still pass on that movie. Hemingway only says that because he lost his first novel.
I don't know if that's the only reason, but it does sound very Hemingway if that would be the case.
It does, and I know that's the whole story of his lost suitcase.
Yeah.
And there's part of me that thinks that suitcase is sitting in some storage unit somewhere.
Yeah.
And maybe who knows, someone's going to open it up find it, or maybe someone did and go, "Oh, writing," just threw it away.
Yeah.
Oh, Pat says no. That was not my hype answer question on hype. My answer to the hype question was Joe Hill's King Sorrow. Remarkably Bright Creatures. Okay, it was on her top 10 list. I read it twice. Okay. I know she really liked the book. And Constance's last read was Chris's from Liminal Spaces, short story and weird frequencies anthology. Wonderful, smooth writing all the way. Here's a question from Litterish. Raf, have you read Metro 2033? I recently finished that and enjoyed it. Thought the atmosphere was great, lagged in parts. You may not know it all, but I doubt Greg and Alan have. Maybe though. I've not heard of it.
No.
I have heard of it. I have not read it yet because, there's so much stuff to read.
Mm-hmm. Here's another question. Finished Underworld by DeLillo. That's a great book. And The Secret Pilgrim by John Le Carre. I have not read that one. Both were 5-star reads for me.
Killer.
The writing in The Secret Pilgrim was pitch perfect. Yeah, Le Carre was a very good stylist. Greg, this is from Litterish. Greg, you enjoyed The Exorcist as well, right? Yes. I have read The Exorcist a number of times.
Yeah.
I've also listened to the audiobook version, which is narrated by Blatty.
Oh.
He has this wonderful gravelly voice that just is perfect for the tone of that story.
I read it once. I remember reading it. Never forget it.
Yep. And then he says, have you read Ninth Configuration by Blatty? No, I have not. I only became aware of it recently. It's incredible, has laugh out loud moments, but genuine horror as well.
Huh.
I've only read The Exorcist by Blatty. I do have Legion on my shelf, but I've not read it. I'm considering The Exorcist a trilogy, The Exorcist, 9 Configurations, and Legion. Okay. Okay, so Mick says ...
Not a fan.
Star, Brexit. I guess someone doesn't like Brexit. Hey guys, Riff Raff reads. Hey guys, best anti-Brexit novel I read is Ian McEwan's The Cockroach, a reversal of Kafka's Metamorphosis. I don't know if you're talking about the same book. Hold on. I'm sorry, I stepped away. I have this book called Cockroach by Taylor Knox. This is what happens if a cockroach turns into a man.
Mm-hmm.
But I've not read it. I don't know the Ian McEwan one.
Huh.
I should look it up, though.
Sounds the same.
So Gavin says, how dare you question our constitutional right to commit economic and cultural self-harm?
I feel like every country has that right, and every country uses it in like a different way. It's like, it's Brexit for the British people. It's, guns for the US. It's no speed limits and cars Uber alles in Germany. It's we all do that in one way or another.
Yep. The cockroaches wake up and find they are British politicians.
Yeah.
All right. I'll definitely have to check that one out.
That's a good spin.
Yep. Okay, we're out of comments.
I like another thing that I should have mentioned, like when it comes to books I've read recently. I mean, obviously I read some nonfiction from time to time. Sven Beckert's Capitalism: A Global History is one of those really, really good books that I cannot recommend enough. It's new. It came out in November. He's been working on that for like the last 15 years or so. He's historian. He's a professor at Harvard. He heads the Institute for Capitalism Research. And yeah, if you want like a comprehensive thing that starts in like the 12th century in Aden, in today's Yemen, right, and goes all the way to today, that's the kind of book you kind of should read. It's really good. It's really comprehensive, and it makes some very good points along the way that are often sort of like overlooked. And sort of like the impact of, say, slavery on like turbocharging capitalism.
And who's the author? That kind of stuff.
Sven Beckert, very German name, but he's a history professor in Harvard.
I'm looking it up. There, Capitalism by Sven Beckhardt. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a 1,300 or whatever page book. It's a massive thing.
Oh well, look at this. Yeah, I have it. I'm looking online. I'll mark it as a thing to pay attention to. How long is it? 42 hours on audio. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's a brick.
I mean, it's a lot of stuff. Like it's 1,200. It's like around like 1,000 years of capitalism history. That takes some time.
If you got 42 hours to squeeze in there, that's like longer than Against the Day.
Yeah, slightly longer, I think. But it's that kind of length.
Okay.
So, Greg, you're finished with
I finished Beyond the Zero yesterday section.
and I've got about 15 pages to go. I'll be done by tonight or tomorrow.
And I've just started the section that's in French. I don't remember the section is a French of something.
Right.
Is that where he's on like that the part where he's at the coast in like on the French coast and you have the whole like kazoo orchestra thing?
Yeah, in Monaco.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
He's at the beach, and there's this young lady that's attacked by Grigory the octopus.
Oh yeah.
And then someone brings him a crab, and he said, "Why do you carry a crab? Is this all a setup?" That's all I got. I mean, I'm on a schedule. I say I try to read between 13 and 15 pages every day.
Well, we're on schedule. We're not even supposed to be done until the 16th.
I'm probably a little bit ahead of schedule, but that's okay.
Yeah, you're about a week ahead. Yeah, because the crab turns into Cancer, the astrological sign, and on and on. Yeah. But yeah, we're not quite there yet.
Yeah,
a lot of cool stuff at the end of Zero, but yeah, this is I was thinking, like, what do you learn in Gravity's Rainbow?
That's what I'm questioning. I mean, as I said in the Discord, I feel like I'm observing in a walk in a city, and there's all these deep holes that you could fall into, just go down this rabbit hole of information. If you let yourself do that and just get totally absorbed by what's in that book. And I'm thinking, I'm not going down any of those holes because.
But I'm following the plot now. It's not really like a historical trip through World War II, but it is. It's not quite like fantasy, but it is because there's like woo-hoo in it. A lot of, and all the Pavlovian stuff that we're not so sure where it's leading, and like how and why. And then like Roger Mexico is one of the guys keeping track of it with Pointsman, and they're with the White Visitation or Pisces under the White Visitation. So, anyway, I just got to notice I got a low battery. Let me plug my cord in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. I think you're right there, Greg. Like what I've learned with like Pynchon is like the first time you read a Pynchon novel, just read it for the vibes and don't go down any of those rabbit holes, because every novel he ever wrote has those kind of rabbit holes. Don't go down those rabbit holes because you'll like forget what the rest is about because you'll be stuck there so long that you lose losing the plot is kind of difficult because there's not necessarily like that much of a plot going on and the plot is not the interesting thing, but like go with the vibes and don't try to actually understand everything, and then next time round you can go and dig down some of those holes, and the next time round you dig down some other holes, but
there's there's relationships between Roger and Jessica that you don't really have to go down the rabbit hole, but that I didn't. She's sleeping with another guy, Jeremy, that I didn't really pay attention to first time around, second time around. And then, I don't know, but you can read it just for the wild scenes that happen.
Yeah.
Like Slothworth falling down the toilet, like they copied in Train Spotting,
Yeah.
Irving Walsh. And then the sexual stuff.
I forgot how much sex there was in this novel. I mean, there's a section in Beyond the Zero where everyone's just doing it all over the place, and
That's
all this.
with Blistero. Under Blistero's, he's got Katja and Gottfried, who he keeps in a cage. Yeah.
Mm. I've always wondered, like, how much of Thomas Pynchon's career is going like, well, people think I'm like a serious literary writer. How far can I push the envelope before they actually stop believing that I'm a serious writer? Because there's so much stuff that he does over the years was like, oh, can I get away with this? So much of this feels like, how much can I get away with? And Gravity's Rainbow is certainly up there. And, the whole like Pulitzer situation shows that there is apparently some institutions you can still like shock with, the stuff.
Yeah, well, that was, like you said, it's like the Pulitzer rejected the novel. Said, we're not giving this the award.
Yeah, and exactly. It's like, it should kind of get the award, but holy shit, we can't do this because of all the Nazi bondage coprophilia stuff.
Yeah, the Colonel or Commander Pudding.
Yeah.
He's the guy who eats shit, yeah.
Yeah, that's like the kind of thing. Is like, I read that, like, once again, like,
he dies of E.
15 years ago.
coli. He dies of E. coli.
It's one of those things like, okay, I see what you're doing there, and it's certainly meant to shock, and it's interesting because Thomas Pynchon gets, writes a novel, like all the serious literary critics, all the serious magazines, everyone talks about it as this new massive thing. And depending on how you summarize a Thomas Pynchon novel, it could mean anything, right? Like, you can go and talk just about like all the weird sex scenes in Gravity's Rainbow, and people will go like, wow, this is worse than all the dark romance stuff that people on TikTok are talking about that we're all upset about. Or you talk about like the weird things, and it's like, this is like the weirdest and worst and most shallow science fiction novel I've ever heard about. And it's this weird composite of like all these different aspects of it that I found so fascinating. Like, you talk about like, so there's this like incredibly handsome and muscular Swedish axeman, Stig, and he's going to have like a wood chopping competition with a werebeaver under the full moon. And you're like, so is this like romance, or is it romantasy or monster erotica or what? It's like, no, it's Mason and Dixon. It just happens to also be in there.
Oh, yeah.
I have not read Mason and Dixon yet. That may
Sorry for spoiling that, but there's a wood chopping competition between
okay, that's fine.
And a Swedish axeman.
That may be 2027, Alan.
What?
Mason and Dixon. Mason and Dixon for 2027.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've got 3 copies of it. I love that book. Made me cry.
It is really good.
Like Ben Franklin smokes weed in it.
Yes,
a lot of people.
Ben Franklin is really, really funny in it, and the wood chopping competition between Stig, the Swedish axeman, who is not exactly a Swedish axeman, but comes from the Hollow Earth that the Chums of Chance kind of fly through in Against the Day. And the werebeaver that falls apart because there's a lunar eclipse, and that means that the werebeaver who is winning has to transform back into human shape. And obviously the 2 astronomers, Mason and Dixon, are then blamed because they knew about the lunar eclipse and they didn't warn the werebeaver beforehand. And it's Thomas Pynchon doing Thomas Pynchon stuff. Like, but the ending is really sad. The ending, like when Mason and Dixon, when one of them has already passed and they're growing old, and once again, it's this like sort of like being lost because time moved on the wrong direction. And I'm not a huge Stephen King fan. I still have to finish The Dark Tower. I don't think Stephen King is like an author for me in general because he's too American. But this whole idea of like the world has moved on, that phrase that he uses in The Dark Tower, especially in The Gunslinger, and then the world moved on, is a wonderful sort of like term, wonderful like description or like wonderful phrase that I think covers a lot of like the things that happen in Thomas Pynchon novels as well. It's like the world moves on, and that's a problem because it moved on the wrong direction. It took the wrong path.
Yeah, I have read the Dark Tower series, when I was in high school, the first book came out as at a limited edition.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be limited to 10,000 copies. And I was
that
in
the one with the
California
cool
at the time.
illustrations? Had
Yeah,
real
and I
good
bought it
nice
for $20. So I didn't really like it, but I eventually read the rest of the series, and it got worse and worse and worse as it went on, in my opinion.
I
I've
like it.
only read the first 3, and I think The Gunslinger is the best. It's probably also the one and only time that Stephen King ever tried to actually do like style, because after that he just like writes down what he thinks and that's it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate like all the sort of like biblical allusions and stuff. I do appreciate that, but I don't know. It
I
just
love the series. I like it a lot.
yeah. I'm going to finish it at some point. I just
But here's the thing I was going to mention when you talk about the world moving on. In the first edition that I have, I don't know if it's in other sections.
yeah.
He says he stole or borrowed an idea from Clifford D. Simak about the gunslinger's world being contained in that all universe, like all atoms contain universes.
Mhm.
And he says in this universe, the gunslinger's universe is in a dying weed in a parking lot, and that's why it's moved on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think he went on in his other books to use that idea.
It's simply that's interesting because that is not included in, say, the audiobook of it. It doesn't have that.
Well, the problem is my version is a limited edition, and I think by the time they went to reprint it and make audiobooks, they just cut out that final essay from the book.
Now I seem to remember that coming through a door, and in not the first 3 either, in one of the Cali books, and seeing that weed image, or maybe
I don't know. I mean, I have to go back and look for it, but it's like it's not a series that I'd ever reread.
Right.
And I'm going to finish it. I'm going to finish it at some point because I feel like it's the kind of thing for me when I want to talk about genre fiction and horror and fantasy and science fiction. It's like you gotta have to read this thing once so you know what you're talking about. And I'm doing this as research. I'm not necessarily doing it as for enjoyment, because I really didn't like the drawing of the 3. I didn't like the wastelands. The wastelands were even worse than like drawing of the 3. Maybe Wizard and Glass is going to be better. Who knows?
See, the thing is, you ask people, and everyone has their favorite and their least favorite.
Yeah.
For me, the drawing of the 3 was my favorite of the series.
One thing I found really interesting. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Raf.
One thing I found really interesting, though, is like the other King that I've read is the 11/22, 63, whatever, the Kennedy book that really sucks, and everyone loves that book.
No. Here the question is, like, I liked parts of that a lot, and then parts of it just made me want to throw it against the wall.
So, like, I feel like the main thing that really, really annoyed me when I was reading it, there are some inconsistencies in there that a proper editor would have caught, like stuff where, cars that are important, he recognized that car. It's like, yeah, but like when you recognize it, it has has a different color from like the time before. So an editor would have caught that kind of stuff. Like there's like dumb inconsistencies where, it's like, yeah, no, this is like the uncle of that guy. It's like, yeah, but like when you met that guy before, he was the son of the guy. So you,
really, I've never noticed
the problem of Stephen King. The problem of Stephen King is that he's big enough that he doesn't actually have to sort of like adhere to whatever an editor says. So I don't think he gets like properly edited anymore, and it shows in that book. And I just don't like that. But like what I found fascinating
a few times.
Yeah,
sounds like a detail you'd have to read that book a few times.
No, I've read it once,
and you caught on to that.
Yes, because I'm an angry person. I'm an angry person. Once
continuity editor.
Yeah. Well, you see, for me, when I read the book, is I'm pretty scientifically minded most of the time, and I know time travel is just a fictional element. Doesn't exist in real life, but I can go with it as a story idea. But the idea for me is when you do time travel, you don't try to explain explain time travel too
Yeah.
much because you're just making stuff up.
Yeah.
And in his novel, and it's a slight spoiler, time does not want to be changed by going into the past. And I'm
And
like,
of
why
course,
would
like one of
time
those
give a
big
fuck
things.
whether it's, I mean, and you have all these rules, and time tries to prevent the time travels from changing the time. And I just thought that was a needless plot twist that he threw into it.
Yeah, it's like if you want to read a novel that deals with those questions of like history and changing history and so forth, you can read Night Watch by Terry Pratchett, and it does that in a really, really good way because Terry Pratchett is actually a really good writer. Stephen King is not. Stephen King is a good storyteller. He's not a good writer. The thing, however, that really annoyed me, like that I found fascinating, not so much the annoyance, but like that I found fascinating, is you compare the bits and pieces in The Gunslinger in particular, and even still like in Drawing of the Three, right? When he writes about America in The Gunslinger, when you have the kid walking around, like you can feel how incredibly angry Stephen King is at American politics and American life in the 1960s and 70s and so forth. Like he's very clear about like when it comes to like depicting, society's problems, racism, all that kind of stuff, right? He's a very angry Stephen King. And you read 11/22/63, and it's a fucking nostalgia jerk off fest, and it's so fucking annoying. Sorry, but it's like, no, wasn't it all nice when it was like 1950s and we had cake and we had come on, what went wrong with you that suddenly you're painting 1950s America in these colors when clearly you really knew that it was wrong when you wrote about it like back then? It's like, what happened there? Who did all of those like things to your brain? I mean,
Well,
then
I
it's
just
just like
I
so
stood up
frustrating.
and got my copy of the book. It's a brick. It's over 1,000 pages long, and I've only read it once. But I say it's a lot of people's favorite King novel. I know
It is.
I could
Gareth,
name a few people I know.
Gareth is his favorite King novel.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. But I don't really remember all the continuity things you're mentioning or the nostalgia.
I think the nostalgia thing is like generally like the thing that like makes reading Stephen King to is so difficult for me. It's like I don't care about small town America. That's not like I've never been to America. I don't care about 50s small town America diners and that stuff. Like that's so far away from my reality. So if you use that to then slightly twist it and turn it into horror, I'm still standing there and shrugging. It's like, so what, right? So what? It doesn't reach me. And it doesn't even twist it that much in 11/22/63, which is just like nostalgia. And weren't things like much better when like Kennedy was still alive? And wasn't it like all nice and stuff? And
I remember
no,
the scene where the traveler, the woman he hooks up with,
yeah,
her former life, the guy had like the thing with the bed. That was
yeah.
that's like I'll never forget that.
Hmm.
That weirded me out. But anyway, so you don't like Stephen King, okay?
Okay. I mean, all right. We've been here for an hour and 23 minutes.
Yeah.
My voice is beginning to get a little hoarse.
Yeah.
And
it's getting
so
late around here.
Batteries dying.
maybe any last words from everyone that you wanna mention?
I don't know. Read good books, be good people. That's usually what I think is like the goal at the end of the day. It's like read
Seems
good
like
books because that will help you be good people at the end of the day.
Well, that's yeah. I've been meaning to make a video about that. That people who read books tend, on average, to be better people than the ones that don't read books.
Seems like we got some more pinch on in 26 and 27 now.
I'm always happy to read more Pynchon.
Have you figured out when you're going to do those, Alan?
No, not specifically. Probably like April, May, June, something like that. I think we're doing 49 in April.
I might join. I mean, That's such a short book. It's easy. It's easy to just take 2 days or 3 days.
It's 150 pages. It's
It's easy. So I'll probably join you for that.
Cool.
Inherent Vice, maybe.
All right.
And then Mason Dixon 2027.
Yeah, that's like another one of the big ones. So
It is.
That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. All
And he
right,
has
right.
another talking dog. Thomas Pynchon loves his talking dogs.
Yeah, and talking light bulbs and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
talking dynamite.
Yep. And here's the last comment we're mentioning is that people who read fiction, I say, because it teaches empathy.
It can do that.
It can, does not always, but on
Okay.
average, I think people who read a lot of fiction can empathize more with different situations
Yeah.
if you read a vast variety of fiction.
That is true. I did write a term paper at university in philosophy class around that, because there's like people who write, like, academic philosophy is looking into that whole thing of going and how fiction allows you to sort of like put yourself into different positions, which allows you to at least approach the sort of like question of like what it would be like to be in a different position. If you can do that, then that could potentially improve your empathy, and that's something that fiction can do, and writing can do that. Potentially movies can do the same, but I feel like fiction is probably the most accessible, because you have to be very clear in what you're writing down compared to a multimedia thing that is movies, where you have like sound and visuals and narrative and stuff happening at the same time. But because you have like only one mode in fictional writing, it does that relatively clearly, and it can improve that way. And there's as I said, like, there's people like Martha Nussbaum and the likes who have written a lot of academic philosophy on the subject. That is worth reading. Like Martha Nussbaum, one of my favorite philosophers, even though she likes Henry James, and
Here's the follow-up to that question: is there's a lot of a-holes read nonfiction. There's a certain type of nonfiction that I think some people are drawn to. A lot of business, a lot of this self-improvement type of nonfiction.
I think the issue with nonfiction is that if you only read nonfiction, there's some people who believe that all you have to do, it has to be functional. It's it's that specific approach to functional, functionalizing everything, right? And the idea is that you can only read nonfiction because nonfiction will teach you something that will improve your life, even if you're reading history or whatever. And nonfiction is just fiction is just made up stuff, so it's not real. And people who believe that from the get-go are on a path to assholeness, I guess. And on the other hand, if you read nonfiction to understand stuff, you can still learn a lot from reading nonfiction. It's very helpful, but it's this idea that everything you have has to be sort of like understood under a sort of like functional logic of going like, this has to do something to make to make numbers go up, basically. If that's your whole worldview, then you will only read nonfiction. You'll probably read the wrong nonfiction, and if you're reading the right nonfiction, you'll take the wrong lessons from it, and that's because the approach is already the problem, right?
We'll end in just a minute, but one of the best work of nonfiction that I read in my life is this book called The Power Broker by Robert A. Caro.
It's so good. It's so good.
You've read The Power Broker, right?
I've read The Power Broker. It's an amazing piece of nonfiction that is written by an absolute master of like writing.
It is. And there is one section in that he went on an extreme detail about building this interstate or highway in Long Island, New York. And there was this farm that they could have easily adjusted the direction of the highway to avoid the farm, but he wasn't a rich man, so the builder said, no, I'm not doing it. And it was how power works. And it's just like, this man had no empathy for the farmer, but he did adjust the highway to not go through rich people's estates. And he went on such incredible detail
Yeah.
to show what the effect truly is on someone who is powerless by the powerful. And it was so amazing.
The Power Broker is like the masterclass when it comes to how to write nonfiction. It's so good. Like, plus Robert Caro is like the person with the thickest New York accent I've ever heard in an interview. It's incredible to hear. Like, I mean, he's still alive and he's still like really clever and smart and everything. And he does interviews, and you hear him calling. You hear Robert Caro talking right now, and he's got the most cliche New York accent you'll ever hear in your life. And that's just like how he talks.
Yeah. He's still got the last volume of his
Lyndon
volume.
Johnson thing. Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to live long enough to finish it.
Well,
I know.
I heard some interviews with him last year. He was still very much.
Last year you heard something.
He was doing interviews with some people last year, and he was still very much at the top of his game at the time. Like he's still writing and he's still working on it, and he's like, you listen to like interviews of like really old people. You can some people have. You listen to like Noam Chomsky today, you notice like the cognitive decline. That man is basically dead at this point. But you talk, Robert Caro is like, he's still like very like witty, very fast on uptake and everything. Same way that like someone like David Harvey is still like really clever and really quick-witted.
Because I really liked his LBJ books as well, so I hope he gets to finish it.
I hope so too, because he's such an amazing writer. Like the thing that always stuck with me is that opening of the Power Broker, where he wrote, he built this highway and this bay and this turn, so on and so forth. And the way he built that is he patterned that on the catalog of ships from the Iliad. So he had all of the things that he built, and he switched around the different highways and crossways and parkways and all of that stuff until it matched the rhythm from the catalog of ships from the Odyssey to have that same impact. And that's like the level of care that shows you that this is someone who could write anything at this. That Robert Caro could write whatever he wants to, and it would still be like incredible prose style.
It is. So, all right, let's try to wrap it up.
Yes.
Everyone. So, Raf, thanks for joining us. Love
this was fun. Thanks, Raf.
It was great. People in the chat room, if you're still there, thank you for dropping by to my pub night and joining in the conversation.
Appreciate it.
We do. And we will say good night, everyone.
Good night.
And see you next week.
Yeah. See you.